Well, hey everybody, it's Jim here, and I'm starting a new video, and I'm going to call this one Part 5, Installing a New Bathroom Floor, or something like that. It'll be in the title of the YouTube video. I was hoping that over the course of a day or two that this wall would settle down a little bit and relieve the lifting on the ceiling, but it did not. That's okay, it's not the end of the world. And this door is still completely deformed, and the bathroom floor still missing. So I'm going to install these three 2x8 floor joists in here with a little bit of blocking and cut these out, these 2x6s that were laminated with the crown pointing down. I just, how anyone could make such a catastrophic mistake when repairing a floor is beyond me, but that's okay. I'm going to fix it all and it'll be fine. So let me get started on that. I have to start by bracing up the part of the house that still has some floor before I cut out these 2x6 floor joists. So I am just about ready to install the first of three 2x8s as floor joists underneath this bathroom. And I've got a floating base sill right above this header joist, and the gap there is approximately, it's almost 6 inches, but I don't want to go that high. I think I need to come down just a hair. So we're going to go 5 3/4 here, and at this side, the height of that is, that looks like it's going to be 5 1/16. So 5 9/16. We're going to go 5 1/2 on this side. And between the beam here and all the way to this end, I'm at right at 115, and that's from the other side of the beam. So I subtract 3 inches for the width of the beam. I need to have a span of 112 1/2. All right, so let me start marking that on my 2x8. So my 2x8 is approximately 121 inches long, just a hair more than 10 feet. So, all right, that's just under 9 inches. So we're gonna split that. We're gonna go 4 1/2 inches on each end as the cut in, and that'll be fine because the extra 1.5 inches will hang over the other side of that beam over there. And here I've got 3 2x6s that ultimately end up being 5 inches thick. Wow, that's pretty neat. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to come in each side 4.5 inches. That looks pretty good. It's not perfect, but boy, it's pretty darn close. I'll be content with that. I picked up this old jigsaw from a pawn shop, and it's not very good, so I'll have to fight with that to get it straightened out. That looks pretty good to me, so let's have a look at the whole board. So I get 5 3/4 at this end with a 4.5 inch deep notch, and then down at that end, 5 3/8. So I have to turn it around and try to position it in this space, and hopefully there's enough of an angle where I can get one lip up over the beam under there, and then swing this end into this gap here. Let's see. It looks like there's just barely not enough. Let me try to lay that down and see what happens. Whew. Well, that was tough. But I managed to squeeze that in there, and as I slide it this way, this gap opens up a little bit, so it'll slide a little easier. And then under here, I'm a little low because the floor is so low, so I'm gonna have to jack up this part of the floor in order to slide this onto the beam over there. Well, I was afraid of that. I ran out of all thread, and now it's just sitting on the edge of the concrete, and I'm not strong enough to lift this by hand, so I'm gonna have to go get another jack. So it looks like my math is right, but the house is so misshapen that I'm going to have to cut a ramp, a bevel here of about a ½ inch, going down to probably around 2 inches in order to slide this in place. Now let me do that. Heck. That should do it. I gave it a little bevel so that it slides up in 2 directions, both this way and this way. I hate to do it that way, but I think that's the only way I'm going to be able to fit this board under there. There it is. Boy, that subfloor does not look very happy, but it'll relax soon. And at this end, you can see where it broke at the bottom of that notch, but on this side it's still just fine, so I'm going to live with it. As much as I dislike that, it's something I'm just going to have to live with. And I'm just going to hammer this in place. Alright, it's right where I want it. And when I release that jack, it's going to sit down hard on this floor joist, but that's okay. I'm real excited. So I'm going to leave this way off to one side to ensure that I can get the next, I have room enough to get the next floor joist in here like I did this one. I may have to cut this out. Ooh, that's a strong maybe. We'll find out and see. Let's just keep going. I think this galvanized pipe has been in my way long enough. So, quick confession, when I was installing that first floor joist, I shaved about an 1/8 inch off of that lip right there to make sure that I could squeeze this floor joist above this beam, in the space between the subfloor and this beam, which over here is really tight, but here it's about where I measured it. It was actually correct. So I got this fun little shim I'm gonna put in here, and it's not the same as doing my work perfectly, but it's better than just leaving it as it is. There we go. It's a little off on the side. It's all right, I can fix that. That's going to be fine. All right. So that is very well supported. Another confession. I should have done better math, because as I've shown you before, sometimes my math sucks. I'm off by 5/8 right there, because a 120-inch long 2x8 minus 112 inches, sure enough, is 9 inches, but I needed a 112.5-inch span. Additionally, that board wasn't 121 inches, it was actually 120 3/4. So when I took 4.5 inches off of each side, I ended up with this much space. It's not the end of the world, it's not so bad, but it's at this end. I chose to put the gap at this end on the beam because this end is laminated to the existing 2x6 floor joist and can withstand a little bit of poor tolerance. Just some sloppy work on my part. Sorry guys, I'm sorry you had to see that. Since I'm here, I think I'll go ahead and try to fix that shim. Let's see. Yeah, right about there. There it is. Alright, so I am really happy with the way that looks. I think it'll be just fine. Alright, moving on to the next beam. So my bummel's off by a little bit right above this new floor joist. So I'm hoping that when I let off the jack, it'll sit back down. Let's see what happens there. Ah, I didn't move at all. Hey, did I get it? Oh, I wasn't on it. Hold on. There it goes. Oh, yeah. Looks like it felt like it moved about 3/16. Let's see. So my bubble is still pretty darn close, but I think I have a high spot. Let's see, over here, yeah, above this next joist, it's off by, I gotta come up 1/2 inch over here. So I think that'll straighten this out, but I don't like how this is off now by just a fraction of a bubble. Maybe I shouldn't have put that shim in there. Oh well. So looking at this some more, I'm figuring out what's going on here. This piece bowed down like this, and then this part, this piece of subfloor bent completely out of shape, was really worrying me, and then I realized that this piece of wall is resting on the subfloor, resting right on the floor, and there's nothing holding it up along the edge there. Just So this piece of subfloor and hardwood floor is load bearing for this wall. So I'll have to take this door out and re-engineer that before I put the subfloor in on the bathroom. Hey, not a big deal. Just more fun. The further you go, the more you realize you need to do. So I got to looking at this hot mess right here in the corner of the bathroom, and you can see daylight outside, and looks like the bathtub with the plumbing on the wrong side rotted out the subfloor at some point, and of course the header joists, which is why there's so much, looks like there's so much new work here. And so these 2x6s were not installed 70 years ago. These are new. You can see it's got this rounded edge on it, so that's a much newer board. But this one, I think, was rotted out when the bathtub leaked, and rotted out the subfloor and then the header joist and the whole bathroom floor, which is why whoever came before me put in a new bathroom floor. So I've got some daylight out there, but what's worse is that I've got this half-inch gap, which means that this board, where it's only, you can see there's only an inch gap in here, there's an inch and a half here, and I gave it a few love taps from outside with my flat bar and hammer, and it closed up a little. And I think what I'm going to end up doing is putting in a piece of 4x4 with some 7-inch lag bolts to tighten it down and make a permanent solution here. And I think I'll go ahead and address this nastiness before I close up the bathroom floor. So, but I'm tired today. I'm going to knock off. I'll see you tomorrow. So I'm at the hardware store looking at all my options, and I figured out that this bracket, along with a half dozen 3-inch long 1/4-inch lag bolts, will do just as good a job as a piece of 4x4 with some 7-inch lag bolts, which I couldn't find. Nobody makes 7-inch lag bolts that you can buy at the big box hardware stores. So I'm going to install this sweet thing here now. So I'm backing away from this other header joist far enough so that to deform, in order to draw this up taut, it has to deform this piece of angle iron, which I don't think will take much force. It doesn't look like it's maybe more than 100 pounds of force to bend that. Maybe 20 foot-pounds. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. What is in the way there? Oh, there's a nail head there. Perfect. Well, this poor board is way off plumb, which makes me think that the header joist over here is way off plumb as well. So I'm going to see if I can't tease this into a more copacetic plumb location. Maybe tug it in a little bit. Probably can't because it is, you got this weird catastrophic mess right here that somebody did in order to repair a lot of rot. I'm coping with it, cutting the boards a hair shy here and there in order to get it out level. I'm going to see if I can just pull this into a plumb alignment, because this other board behind it, absolutely not plumb. This other header joist. Let me see what I can do. Well, that is much closer. Let's see if I can lever this out. Yeah, that's actually a lot better. Yeah, let me see if I can prop this out in this position, and you can see where it is pulling out this header joist into a plumb position. So let me see if I can prop this out while I put the bracket on in that corner. So what I didn't realize, and you probably noticed right away when I was doing this, is that I can't put my drill here and drill out the holes. But what I can do is mark it with this magic marker, take the board out of the way, and then drill the holes. Well, I don't think that's going to get any better. I think that's about the extent of how tight that's going to get, especially with this cheesy bracket, this off-the-shelf garbage. But that's okay, because I am going to be content with that. As long as that's at a right angle, then I'll be content. So if it's not, then I'll deal with it later, because I'm going to have to put a shower pan in here and eventually tile around it. And that's going to be a lot of fun if this is not level, square, and plumb. Ooh. So I'm wondering just how square this is, and then I remembered, oh yeah, math. So I can look in this corner it should be a right corner, which means that if I measure out a length this way, 3 feet, and a length this way, 4 feet, then the distance between the 4-foot mark and the 3-foot mark should be 5 feet, if this is square. So I'm going to find that out now. Right at 60. Come on, hold still. There it is. So I'm very pleased. I'm very fortunate too, because I did not know if this was square. But that corner is square now, and I'm going to leave it that way. Well, this closet over here is nailed down. You can see where it's nailed right on top of the subfloor. This was an add-on at some point, and I like the design of it, so I'm going to leave that where it's at. Sadly, though, when they nailed it in place, they used nails that were just a hair too long, and you can see that they're all poking through here. So I have to go through and just snap off each of them until I get to the beam there. So I'm just going to do that now. Okay, so this end is just where I want it. It's perfectly plumb and right on that 16-inch line. And this one back here, the base is at a 16, is on the bottom at the 16-inch line, but the top is off by about a 1/4 inch, and I'll fix that afterwards. This poor board has a slight twist in it and a slight bend, but I'm going to fix those once I get this to sit down. So I'm going to release these jacks, and hopefully nothing terrible occurs. So let me get going with that now. Sweet. All right, so those bottle jacks have been released, and now the load of this wall is resting on this new floor joist. And at the end, that is pretty tight. I'm liking that. It's tight at that end too. I think we're good. Well, great. This floor is starting to come together, and it's actually worked out about as good as I could expect. And I had to go with non-standard spacing on these floor joists, but as long as I remember where they are, then installing the subfloor won't be a problem. Well, these floor joists are looking great. That middle one has a really bad twist in it, but I can fix that with some blocking, which I have to install anyway to increase the rigidity of the floor. So let me get started on that. I think that's perfect. Just like that. Yeah, it's nice and flush with this piece of subfloor. And then down here it's nice and tight as well. I think we'll be okay now. So as I'm leveling the floor, I'm constantly checking it to make sure that it's level with everything else, and these three are level with each other and with the rest of the house, except for this board here on the left, which I'm pretty sure is being held down by this piece of the new door frame. So this was installed while the house was on level, and then as I level it, it becomes misshapen. I don't know if you can tell from here, but it's no longer a rectangle. So the ceiling is level, but this thing is way off. And here you can see it's way off. Let's see, let's check the other side. Yeah. So since this door is no longer a rectangle, it's not going to close anymore. I have to tear this out, so prepare for a little more demolition, which isn't a big deal. Well, that's cute. Looks like they didn't bother to shim it at all. It just left it wide open. So good for whoever was here before me. You saved yourself several minutes of effort. Nice. So already, this board is relaxed a lot. I'm just going to go ahead and take this one piece out, if I can. Just like that. And now, that subfloor can spring back into place and line up with everything else underneath. I may have to shore that up a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. Where's my level? So there in the middle, it's dead on. Slide over here a little bit. That is pretty close as well. I think, yeah, that's dead on as well. Look at that bubble, right between the lines. I'm going to declare victory on that. And I'll just rebuild this wall and install a new door and be very content with the end results. So I'm looking at the first 3 boards in the bathroom, and they look great, along with the blocking, which is turning out really, really well. That's about half of all the blocking that I want to put in here. But what I'm realizing is that against the outside wall, the header joist there, none of the boards are level with the rest of the house. So I'm going to tear some of them out and laminate this piece of 2x6 in there, so that part of it is resting on that beam running through the center of the house, and then part of it's resting out here on the header joist with the rest of the floor joists. And then I will screw it into the header joist around the outside of the house, and then shim it up so that it's resting on top of these cinder blocks for additional support. That 2x6, even though it is a 2x6 on a 10-foot span, should never sag. So let me cut that to length and see if I can coax it into place. So what I've done is I've cut the board 6 inches longer than the span, and then put this notch on here so that I can hopefully coax it up underneath the beam in the middle of the house, slide this end over this header joist, and then declare victory with it in place. It'll take a little effort to get it all level, but it'll be perfect at the end. This header joist is in pretty bad shape, so I'm laminating this floor joist right next to it, and hoping that that's just going to provide a lot of stability and level out the floor. So here I am done at this end. Let me see what I can get done here. I think I can level this out pretty well. Alright, I'm way off here. So it says I'm way too... Oops. There we go. That is pretty darn good. I think I'm just going to leave it just like that and declare victory. Just like that. And that's going to work out just fine. That bubble's pretty close to dead on. I like that a lot. And down here, It's dead on. And then back this way. It's a little low, so I got a little more shimming to do. Alright, so my bubble is just a hair off. And that looks like, oh, not even an eighth. But what it'll cause is the water to flow toward the middle of the bathroom. At least that's my hope. As opposed to running off to the edge of the bathroom and then running up the sills. So I'm looking at this wall in the back of the bathroom, on the outside wall of the house, and it seems okay except for the fact that it's bowed out right here. So you can see here where this is about an inch behind this 2x4, but this is only about a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch. So I don't know why this part of the wall is bowed out, but I'm going to tear it out because I've got to tear out the rest of this part of the wall anyway as part of this project. Well, I think I see why the wall was so bowed out in comparison to the rest of the house. that is a massive 1.5 inch gap behind this stud. So naturally I have to pull this stud out and replace it, and that's not going to be that big of a deal, but I'm going to put that off until tomorrow. So the new floor joists and the blocking came out really, really nicely. I'm pretty excited by the way that looks. And it's level as can be, or as level as I want it. And I'm ready to put in the subfloor. I'm just going to blaze through it quickly. I don't have a lot to add when it comes to cutting sheets of plywood. I am going to use some 3/4 inch particle board, and I don't know how smooth that's going to be. I may have to sand it in order to eliminate any burrs that are stuck in the wood. But it should work out okay as long as I prevent it from ever getting wet in the bathroom, which won't be easy. So now comes the fun part of cutting this new piece of wood to match up to the existing subfloor on this side. Here you can see there's a spot where I'll have to tuck it underneath the door jamb there. But that's not going to be that big of a deal. Everything else looks pretty easy going forward. Let me commence to cutting. well, there in the doorway, that's about as tight as it's gonna get. I'm very pleased about that. But over here, against the wall, I've got some good news and bad news. The bad news is that there is a 1/2 inch gap. But the good news is this is going to be hidden underneath the cabinetry and the sink vanity. So this will be okay. This is a win. I'm absolutely going to declare victory on this one. Let me screw this down. Well, that is a significant milestone. The new subfloor in the bathroom. Now I still have to put the new floor in the bathroom, which is over here. And then of course I'll put the vinyl plank flooring, that new luxury stuff, over that. But everything else looks great. I am very excited by how this turned out. It took me a long time. I've been procrastinating for weeks. But I finally got it done, and I'm going to close out this video here, and as always, let you know that I learned a lot when I was making this video. I hope that you learned a lot too, and thanks so much for watching.